You've heard of SMART goals, but how do we actually apply this to our art practice? Isn't art supposed to be whimsical, free, spontaneous, in the moment? You wouldn't just go run the New York Marathon without having preparation, planning, or any training, would you? So in this video, we are going to come up with tangible, practical, and visual planning techniques that you will be able to write out entirely with me for coming up with achievable goals for 2025 that will actually help you enjoy the process and not burn out due to overwhelm. So if that sounds good to you, stick around and let's get started. I'm Allie Mack and welcome to my art channel. Today we are going to be talking about setting some art goals. And yes, I am a homeschooling mom, if you didn't know, so I do whip out the whiteboard occasionally. We're going old school here, YouTube. I promised you could do this entire planning process with me right now, and that is the truth. First thing first, you are going to need a pencil and 4 sheets of paper. You can go a little above and beyond if you want to get a calendar that you can pick up at the dollar store if you would like, or an actual planner. This one also I keep it above my desk. It's really old and you can just change it out, or you can go to Ross or TJ Maxx or something and get a 12-month planner. I think, oh, look at that. Yeah, I spent $7.99 on this one. I like this one because I use these planners as a working to-do list. So again, this is going above and beyond, but what we're going to do today is the goal setting so that you can achieve your goals in 2025. So the first thing we are going to do is actually almost like a brainstorming session. I know a lot of people call this a brain dump, where you just get out all of your ideas, maybe some goals you're working on but are still in progress that you haven't accomplished yet, things you want to do, things you have to do. And once we get done with this, we'll move on to our true first step. But this is kind of just the starting point. So we're gonna call this brain dump. Okay, so some goals that I want to accomplish next year. I want to do 1 YouTube video per week, 1 painting per week. I want to have at least 1 newsletter per month. And actually the paintings, I want them to be a part of 3 different series that I'm working on. I have 20 paintings that need to go into an art show that is in July. I probably want to do 15 more animals. Actually more like 14. I think I have 6 or 7. I want to continue on doing my childhood moment series that I'm calling Love and Light. That's 30. That's 12 miracles series. And then that leaves, I have 2 commissions in the early part of this year, and I have to make that 14. Actually, I said this was 14, didn't I? I need to do 2 animals that are pet portraits. So 2 commissions, 2 animals. That's a general idea, but 50 total. Like 1 painting a week, 1 YouTube video a week with a couple weeks off. There's a confidence building journal that I want to write and produce. I want to actually write a book. I am not sure when I want to start that, probably after my show, but I don't know if I necessarily want to get that done next year. I also want to do a calendar project for 2026. July gallery exhibition. Let's see. And I'm writing down the things that I want to do, I have to do. And let's see, the other thing is January through March, animal pieces at Studio Jaybird and Art Walk in Norman, Oklahoma. These 2 things I've committed to doing, as well as these animal paintings, these commissions, those animals. YouTube I've committed to doing. Oh, I guess I need to put the monthly book club meetup. That's ongoing, so I just want to continue doing that. I just put down everything I want to accomplish in my art practice. Last year, as I was looking at my journal of what I accomplished, the first half of the year, I was doing the mastery program, which I have a link to below if you're interested in checking out. And I spent that whole time just studying, reading, and delving into the depths of my artistic soul and figuring out my why and my purpose and my destiny and doing a lot of introspective work. Then from about July on was taking next steps. And the beginning of the year, I had ideas how I wanted to finish out the year, but after I graduated, I started taking a different direction in my art, which is okay. I think one of the great things about the program I took is you are learning at a rapid rate and you are discovering things about yourself and your art practice very quickly that it takes years and years for artists to develop in their style. So my style was changing a little bit as I was experimenting. I decided to pivot a little bit, and pivoting is okay because at the end of the year, you will see what you actually accomplish and you'll have a better idea of what you want to plan out for the following year. So now that we've brain dumped, I'm going to take a picture of this so I can refer back to it. So at this point, I would write at the top of your paper, goals 2025. And neatly, because this is kind of chicken scratch, write out every single goal you have in order of importance from top to bottom. And then I would say the top 3 is your main focus for the year. Again, you do have obligations and things like that that necessarily aren't goals, but are just commitments. But the goals that you really want to achieve, put at the top. So transfer this brain dump into the goals with your top 3 at the top. One thing I want to point out are when you are writing out these goals, keep in mind that we don't have control over how many paintings we sell, how many subscribers or followers we get. We can only control our output. We can only control what we do. So when you are making these goals, I want you to keep in mind to not put too much stock in something like winning an art contest or getting into a gallery. You have to focus on the things that you can control, which is your time in the studio, the projects you're working on, and the things that are really, really important to you that you achieve intrinsically. The other thing I would say is when you are writing down these goals, you're putting your top 3 at the top. If, like, say, that is a lot to do in one year. It's a big commitment. And if I had to leave anything off, I'd say writing the book and coming up with my journal. That's something I really want to do. But it is more important for me to produce 50 paintings. And it is more important for me to be sharing on YouTube. And that would be icing on the cake. But I wouldn't be devastated if that didn't happen. I know that I would just do it next year. So those are the kind of things that I would want to put at the bottom that you want to work towards, but that isn't like the main focus, like the 50 paintings and the art show that I'm doing. Because when we hang this on our wall, this is going to give us a visual reminder. It's going to be our guiding light, our North Star, hanging where we can see it. So every day that we put a little bit of time in, we know this is what we're working towards. Because not every single day we're going to feel motivated to go into our studio and do work, especially the stuff that isn't necessarily the fun painting part, like prepping canvases or making sources. I don't know. It depends on what part of the process you like and don't like. But when you are lacking motivation, looking at your overall goals, it's going to feel so good when you check these things off your list. That will help us in accomplishing the daily tasks we set out for ourselves, which brings me on to the next point. And this is actions. This is where we decide on what tasks we need to allot, the small bites, so to speak, that we need to take to eat the elephant. I don't even remember which book I read that in, but if you know, remind me in the comments. And these will define our action plan. Defining our actions can sometimes take the most time to figure out, but the best thing to do is just allot time towards those tasks. So say you have a painting that takes you 10 hours, and maybe you can physically and realistically only paint 2 hours a day. Maybe it's before work, maybe it's after work, maybe it's like me and you paint during your kids' nap time, which is, if I'm lucky, 2 hours a day. And this may be because you are working or you have a lot of family obligations. This means the painting will take you 1 5-day work week to complete 1 painting, or 52 paintings a year. So 52 paintings is a realistic goal that I pulled from when we wrote down our brain dump. Easily, I can write 50 paintings at the top of the list. And maybe 50 paintings isn't going to be your goal. Maybe you want to split up the month where 1 week you are working on a painting, but maybe the next week you are working on a course or a class or a new technique and you're experimenting. So you may only want to complete 24 paintings in a year, but complete a online art course or take an art class locally. Or we just work on the skills that you've already developed, but you're creating like a side project that isn't going to be necessarily paintings you would normally be working on. So you can divvy this up any way that you like. I'm going to write this up here. We had goals, actions. Now, this next step is play to your strengths and delegate. You may be a one-man or woman show like I am, and putting your time and energy into these art goals actually takes more manpower. or woman power, mentally and physically. Taking a little bit of the load off in another area of your life may help you be more productive in these new tasks, like hiring someone to help deep clean once a month, or hiring someone to help mow your lawn, or have your spouse or children like take on a few more chores, which I know this may be hard for a lot of you, because if you're like me and you want to be in control or have things done a certain way, that may be a little bit difficult if people aren't meeting your expectations. But it is also really good for them and us if we're relying on the people around us and then they're able to help us. Trust me, allowing yourself to have more time and energy will help you be more productive, because the problem is you're not going to be very productive if you have no energy. This is something that I run into a lot, and maybe you do as well. And this is where playing to your strengths really helps in this aspect. So maybe you're a good cook, and cooking for your family not only benefits your family, it keeps them healthy, it's something you enjoy doing, you're good at it, but maybe have someone else do the dishes. Catch my drift on this one? And again, you can hire someone to deep clean the kitchen once a month or once every couple months if it needs it, and hire that out to someone, because your time and energy is valuable and it is worth investing in yourself to achieve bigger goals. So the next step that we're going to talk about are deadlines. Now, we've come up with our goals, we've come up with some actionable steps. Now you have energy to complete these tasks. This is when the planner and the calendar come out. We're going to write out our ideal day. This will show us when we can work on our goals. I personally use block scheduling. You can do everything hour by hour if you are that rigid. It depends on how you like to structure your day. For me, I don't have everything in my control. A lot of things are dependent on the needs of my children and their nap time, when we're having dinner as a family, when my husband's coming home from work, those kinds of things. So I like to plan out my day in a block schedule way where we have sort of a rhythm to the day, where certain tasks get tackled in different blocks of the day and there's a flow, things get done. If one or two things doesn't get done, it's not a big deal. It's like when you're in high school, first period is English, you worry about English. The bell rings, you move on to science. You're not worrying about English, you're worrying about science. This style of block scheduling is really helpful because this really shows where you want to spend your time in each chunk of the day. So this is not a hard schedule. This is an ideal week where you would typically allot your time, and is going to be, again, a reference. So you have your goals that are going to go on the top, and then this one is going to be your, where'd my blue one go? Ideal day. So this is also going to go in a visual place, like above your desk, in your studio, that kind of thing. Something that you can reference. This isn't something you're going to check off every single day, although you could put it in one of those plastic sleeves and check it off with dry erase markers every day. But again, just a reference to keep you in a flow, on track. The other benefit to having something like this is that you can refer to this for your obligations for each section of time, and then things don't get neglected. One problem I faced when I first started that art program that I had is things got put on the back burner. My house was being neglected and wasn't as clean. I was kind of scrambling at dinner time because I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about what I was going to plan for dinner, because all day I was thinking about painting when I wasn't doing homeschooling, and then I was just trying to get back in the studio, and I didn't have certain time set for certain tasks. So it's really important that your important tasks aren't neglected, like self-care, for example, making sure you have your meal times in your allotted zones. You're making sure you're exercising, you have your family time, and sleep, the basics. So what you're going to do with your ideal day, 6 to 8 is AM. That's breakfast, getting ready, vitamins, walk, and then I get my kids ready. And then the next block might be, like, for me, 8 to 11 is homeschool. That has subject 1, subject 2, subject 3, and then we have lunch. Lunch and nap time block is, I'll call it the lunch block, but 11 to like 1:30, and actually I'm going to say 2 because my kids, they don't actually fall asleep until 2. So I'll say 11 to 2, which each of these blocks can be about 2.5 to 3 hours at a time is the rule of thumb, or maybe 2 to 3 hours, somewhere in there. This I'm going to put as the lunch block, and that's where we eat. We have outside time, outside play I'll put, and that's also when we have books and we tidy up. And that's also when they're going down for naps. So I'm putting that in there too. Then from 2 to 4, that is my studio time. So I will put in here work / paint. Then your actionable tasks that you come up with will end up going in this category, but you don't necessarily have to be super specific. It's just the time slot. And then we have 4 to 6 is dinner. This is when we eat as a family. We have family time, tidy. 6 to 8, baths, Bible, kids in bed. And so I am kind of losing space on this board, but I would say 8 to 10 is then, again, your own schedule. Like maybe you have couple time, if you know what I mean, or maybe you're reading, or maybe that's when you just watch some Netflix, like your favorite show, like whatever it is. Then you have from 10 to 6 is sleep. Okay. That's how you would write down an ideal day. That would go on here and on your wall. Now, next we're going to talk about is the ideal week. So on your next piece of paper, ideal week. Now, for the sake of just coming up with your plans, doing this on paper is perfectly fine and hanging it up where you can see it. But if you want to make it fancy, if you want to do it in Microsoft or Excel or wherever and come up with something that looks really nice, or if you want to decorate it to put it up, that is perfectly fine. For me, I just like to keep it simple. And again, I like having the visual. I know you can keep it in your phone, you can keep it in a Google Calendar, you can have it on your Notion or whatever. But for me, having the visual has been the best practice for me. Let me know if you are a visual person. And if you're an artist, I kind of assume that you might be a visual person. That's the next thing that's going to go up. So you're going to have Sunday. I don't know. You can start with Sunday or Monday. Now you have your ideal week drawn out. If you want to do a 2-week sprint, you can actually put a line through this and have a 2-week sprint. I know my mom works at a job where they operate not on a weekly basis, but a 2-week basis, and that seems to help their projects. The purpose of this is to see the natural cadence to your week and see those pockets of time that you can devote to your goals. It's nice when you can walk into your creative space and you have an idea of already what you're going to be working on, and that helps keep you focused. This is how I would do mine. Sunday is largely a cleaning day. It's kind of like my house reset day. And then prep, I'll put cleaning. Clean, prep, and plan. That's the type of activity. So prepping and planning is what I do in my kids' nap time. Cleaning is what I do in the majority first part of the day. Then I know this is, let me do another color. This is my homeschool block. This is the day that we go for library and errands. I should have done that a different color. You see that like homeschool is always in this first block, and that's what makes up the majority of the beginning of most of my days. This is our rest day, so we rest on Saturday. So I just marked out that whole day. Let's see, what else can I put on here? Right here, I know that my husband is going to go play basketball this night. I know that Wednesday is usually my day to go to the gym, like outside the house. This is also usually our date night. Let me do another color. You can see, you can do this one. This is the modeling paste and maybe the drawing. So maybe modeling paste, underpainting, and you might not have to get that specific. You could maybe just do paint, or you might just put studio just to see where your time is going. I like to do either filming or editing on Fridays just because my husband works 2 jobs and he is away in this part of the evening, so I can get a lot of editing done, things like that. So this is just a quick ideal week. You can get much more detailed than this if you want, but really it's just to have a visual picture of the cadence of your week, the rhythm, just like your day. Walking into your studio, seeing these visual cues of what actionable steps you need to be taking at what times helps with your focus. And this is incredibly important because of attention residue. I have heard someone coin before, because when we switch back and forth from activities, it takes our brain a minute to refocus. Instead of trying to multitask, it's better to single task. So instead of listening to a podcast while you're at work or watching a show while you paint, which I don't even like understand how people can do that. It's important to set your space up, your creative space, so that when you walk into it, you know what you're doing. You're not fiddling around like, what am I going to paint today? What am I going to do today? You already have a plan of, oh, I have this painting I'm working on because for the next 10 weeks, I'm doing animal paintings. I'm going to do this animal today, this animal next week, and you can just go through your list. So multitasking can actually make you work slower, which is not what we want. And one way that is helpful to stay focused is, say you do go get into your studio and something pops in your head. Oh, I need to remember to get bananas at the grocery store. That is one thing I like to use this for. I don't use this extensively. I don't write in here every day. I mean, I maybe jot something down, but I'm actually really excited to get my new one. I use this as a running to-do list. What's really nice is you can write something like it's about to be January. I'll go in the first part here. Pick up bananas. Wrote it down, I can put it down, and I can get back to painting. So you're on the phone. Someone tells you, oh, hey, can you come to my thing on this day? Sure, let me write it down. I use this like a to-do list and notebook. If I have an idea, I write it down and just set it to the side. Now, I am a pencil and paper kind of girl. I've always been that way. And you might be just fine taking your phone out and using the notes app on there or your reminders and just typing it in real fast, then set your phone down and get back to what you're doing. Those tools are just to help, because your brain is not a giant pad of sticky notes. It's for ideas, it's for creation. And these tools are to be there for your sticky notes, the 1,000 different things that you need to remember. It goes in here. I kind of go to it once a week to sort of look at if anything I need to address, anything that isn't in my ideal week, that it just changes it up, like a doctor's appointment or something like of that nature. When I'm going to cook, I like to think about at the beginning of the week in my Sunday prep day. I am using this on my Sunday where I write out what meals I'm going to do. That is an extra thing that you can do to stay on top of things and just to write things down. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is you can have a visual calendar. I do recommend getting maybe an actual 12-month calendar, but the reason you would want to get one of these is to visualize what you are working towards. So you have a art show or an art walk. There are several like Friday art walks in Oklahoma. So that might be something I do on a Friday. Maybe you're writing out the painting that you want to do, like painting number 1 or number 2, but oh, I'm only going to have 5 days to work on this painting because I'm going to go to this art walk on Friday. Maybe you're writing every single day and you decide, I want to have 1 chapter done by the end of this month. You can write that and hang this. Now, I'm not talking about like putting Johnny's ball practice or Susie's dentist appointment on here and having it be a family planner. I would keep that on your fridge or by your front door if you have a command center, or if you like need that level of organization in your life and you have a family planner. This is literally just for the art goals. So again, you can get a $1, or maybe is it $1.25 now at the Dollar Tree calendar. And if you do have something like each painting you want to do, you can put it out for each week. If it's a YouTube video, all the video ideas you want to do, I am not that far ahead, but I do have the art show that I'm going to be doing in July. That would be a good thing to put on a calendar to just have a visual. So those are 2 extra tools that you can use. Or if you have like a vacation at the end of the year and you're going to be gone for 2 weeks, obviously just put you're going on vacation. That does affect your work. Okay, that's blackout days. You're not working on that, just to see where your time is being allotted. So blocking off any major events or time shifters, that's fine. I'm just saying don't put daily tasks on a calendar that's supposed to be like in your studio, putting your art goals on. And at the end of the year, you will really see how your goals take shape. If you just take 20, 30 minutes to write out those 4 sheets of paper, you'll feel a little more relieved because I have this much time to devote to these paintings or these projects. And then it's going to feel like, okay, if I just go to my studio every day in the time I already had or devoted to, you will see that they really are so much more likely to be achieved. When I look back at my planner from last year, let me see where it was. So this was my art planner from last year. I actually used this as a business planner too, kind of old school, but I did write down which paintings I was doing on which days. And at the very bottom, I had a goal for that month. I had 3 main goals that I wanted to achieve last year, and that was 50 paintings, graduating the mastery program, and 20 animal paintings for my shows so that I would already have it finished. Now, I did not finish the animal pieces because I was not sure exactly the direction I wanted to go with that collection, but I did get 2 out of my 3 big major goals finished. And again, that it had nothing to do with sales. It had nothing to do with things that were outside of my control. And when I see how much I actually moved the needle in my art career, what I would say is, looking back at last year, I was so happy with what I had accomplished. And yeah, maybe I accomplished 70% of what I set out to do, but had I not written those things down, had I not decided, okay, these are the things I'm going to work towards, I might have gotten 0 accomplished. And then at the end of this year, when you look back, you think, wow, I made a lot of progress. And that is the goal. It's progress. It's enjoying the journey, and it's not perfection. It is not ticking off every single thing on that box. If you have a pivotal moment during the year where maybe your location changes, maybe your day job changes, or maybe things happen in your family and you need to readjust, that's okay. Having those higher overarching goals that kind of go past all that, like your goal of becoming a full-time artist where you don't have to have a day job anymore, you're moving the needle towards those things. And maybe that's a 5-year goal. And let me know if you want to have a 5-year goal video. At the end of the year, you will really see your goals become achieved simply because you set out clear goals, actionable steps, and deadlines for the goals that were really important to you. And this was the case for me. I still am doing it part-time because homeschooling is something that I'm not going to give up. That is a personal choice, and that is why I craft my goals and my plans around the things that are very important to me, but allow me to take care of the things that I need to take care of and also accomplish or work towards accomplishing my artistic goals. Really learning to focus on what I can control each day and not getting overwhelmed with all the huge dreams I want to live out, because I already decided I'm going to live them out. Every day I'm going to come in my studio and paint. And maybe not every day, but every day I plan to paint. I'm going to go paint. And it just comes down to planning out the steps and executing. And the same is true for you. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I would love it if you consider to like or subscribe and to continue going down this artistic journey with me. I really hoped you gained some tips. Maybe you've seen some of this stuff before, but again, just getting 4 different pieces of paper and writing out your brainstorming or brain dumping exercise, setting out your goals, coming up with your ideal day and your ideal week, and then being able to just put, if you want to go the extra step, putting your tasks in a notebook and putting your bigger goals on a calendar you can hang on your wall is all you really need to do to just move the needle every single day. And I really hoped you gained some courage to set some intentional time aside for yourself to achieve your artistic dreams. Thanks so much again, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.